Some places were never meant to be remembered, not because they're abandoned, but because they weren't ever really meant to exist. Highway motels, roadside check-ins, places where no one asks your name, and you forget theirs just as fast. They aren't designed for comfort. They're built for passing through. But sometimes, people don't pass through. They stay. Sometimes by choice. Other times, because something chooses them. These are 3 real stories, told by the people who survived them. Stories from motels that no longer show up on any map. Maybe they never did. And if you ever find yourself driving alone, and the road feels too quiet, and a blinking neon sign catches your eye, don't stop, don't check in, and whatever you hear behind the door, don't open it. He knew the guests wouldn't leave alive. People say the desert keeps its secrets. It doesn't bury them. It just lets them settle, like dust in the wind, until the wrong person kicks them up again. I was just a shipping rep. I drove cross-country, making sure packages arrived where they were supposed to. Inventory, invoices, chain of custody reports. Nothing exciting. I wasn't looking for trouble. But trouble doesn't always come kicking your door in. Sometimes, it slides a key across the front desk and tells you room 5 is ready. I'd been driving for almost 11 hours straight. Fell asleep at a gas pump north of Holbrook and nearly missed the meeting. So when I saw that faded sign, Desert Haven Motel, I didn't think twice. No cars in the parking lot, no lights in the office, just a cracked neon buzz overhead, and a porch swing gently swaying in wind that didn't exist. I pushed the door open. The lobby was dead quiet. Plastic plants, faded magazines, and a long, narrow counter with a guest book resting in the center. A real one, leather-bound, with names written by hand. I flipped through it while I waited. Page after page, all the same format. Name, date, room number, checkout time. But the checkout times were blank. Every entry. No one had filled in when they'd left. Some names were crossed out. Others had question marks next to them. And on the very last page, scrawled in jagged, shaking handwriting, was one word. Run. That's when he stepped out. From the hallway behind the office. He was tall. Too tall for someone that thin. His skin was dry. Not sunburnt, just used. Like paper that's been folded too many times. He didn't introduce himself. Didn't ask for my name. He looked at me for a long time. Then asked, "You driving alone?" I said yeah. And he nodded, just once, and slid the key across the desk. Room 5. That was it. No check-in, no ID, no credit card, just that question. And that key. Room 5 was spotless, like strangely clean. No dust, no stains, no cigarette burns or weird carpet smells like most roadside joints. There was a small table in the corner with a single metal chair. And above it, a mirror. But the reflection was off. A few seconds behind. Like it was lagging. I chalked it up to exhaustion. Laid down. Closed my eyes. And then, around 2:30 a.m., I heard it. Coming from the wall behind the bed. Then, whispers. Low, male, close. Like someone having a conversation through the vents. Only, there were no vents in that room. I sat up. Looked around. The sound stopped. But now, there was something new. On the table. A photo. Black and white. Just appeared there like someone had slid it under the door. I picked it up. 3 people. A man, a woman, and a child. All standing in front of the same motel. But there was something wrong with their faces. Their eyes were missing. Clean cut. Like holes punched out. And on the back, written in red marker, "They stayed too long." I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The knocking came back around 3:10 a.m., then again at 3:33, always in pairs, always from the wall. I left at dawn, didn't bother checking out, but just before I pulled away, I looked back. The manager was standing outside room 3, smoking. He didn't wave, didn't blink, just stood there, Watching, I kept driving, didn't stop for hours. But when I finally reached Flagstaff, I pulled over to a rest stop just to breathe. Opened my bag to grab my charger, and found another photo. Same family. But this time, I was in it, standing beside them, smiling, eyes scratched out. There was no timestamp, no Photoshop. I don't even remember that shirt. And then last night, weeks later, I pulled out that guest book page I'd torn from the motel. Just one name had been added in fresh ink. Mine. And beside it, in the same red marker, Room 5, returned but not empty. Room 19 was locked for a reason. After the divorce, I didn't want to be found. Not by friends, not by family, not by the version of myself I left behind. So I drove. No maps, no plans, just away. Somewhere between Tucson and nowhere, the storm hit. Cold rain, zero visibility, and no signal on my phone. When I saw the neon sign through the fog, Suncrest Lodge, I pulled in without thinking, not because it looked safe, but because it looked like the kind of place where people forgot you. It was small. 8 rooms, maybe 9. No other cars in the lot. No one behind the front desk. Just a service bell and a clipboard that said, "Take a key, pay in the morning." Room 19. The last key on the hook. As I reached for it, a voice came from behind me. Old, raspy, female. She said, "That one shouldn't be used." I turned. An elderly woman stood there, in a faded housecoat and plastic slippers. She looked like she'd just stepped out from a different century. I half smiled, told her I just needed a place to sleep. She didn't blink, didn't argue. She just whispered, "Don't talk to it, no matter what it says." Room 19 smelled like mildew and old wood. Not rot, not filth, just time. The lights flickered when I flipped the switch. The carpet was torn at the corners, and the window refused to close all the way. I threw my duffel bag on the bed and locked the door, twice, then walked over to the nightstand where something caught my eye. It was a Bible, open, page torn, one verse circled in black ink. "He who sleeps in the den of whispers shall not wake alone." I froze. It came from behind the wall. But room 19 was at the end of the building. There was nothing behind that wall, just the woods. I pressed my ear to the plaster, and there it was again. A voice, female, quiet, pleading. "Can you hear me?" I backed away, tried to sleep, convinced myself it was the wind, or the plumbing, or maybe the storm playing tricks. But at 2:13 a.m., I woke up. Not from a noise, not from a dream, from a feeling. The room was watching me, not in a metaphorical way. I felt its eyes, the kind of sensation that crawls over your skin before your brain catches up. I sat up in bed. That's when I saw it. The mirror, above the dresser, was fogged over. Not like steam, there was no heat in the room, more like breath, as if something had exhaled onto the glass from the inside. I turned toward the mirror, wiped it with my sleeve, and written in the fog was a single word: stay. I backed away, heart pounding, went to the door, tried to unlock it. The chain was twisted, bent in a way that shouldn't be possible, like someone had tied it into a knot from the inside. I checked the window, nailed shut, tried the bathroom door. It wouldn't open. Then the voice came again, clearer, right behind me. "Please, I don't want to be alone." I spun around. There was nothing there. But the mirror had changed. Now my reflection wasn't mine. Same posture, same face. But the eyes were wide open, too wide, and bleeding. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Opened the Bible again, desperate for something, anything. But the pages had been replaced. Not scripture, just line after line of one sentence. One leaves, one stays. Then, a knock, not at the door, from inside the room. I turned slowly and saw the closet, except room 19 didn't have a closet. At least, it didn't when I got there. Now it stood tall and narrow in the corner. Door slightly ajar. Darkness bleeding from the crack like ink in water. I reached out, hand trembling, fingers wrapped around the knob, and someone grabbed my wrist, hard, pulled me backward just as the door slammed shut. I fell. Looked up. The closet was gone. In its place, a wall, no seam, no frame, nothing. As if it had never been there. I ran to the door. This time it opened, no resistance. I didn't even look back. I sprinted into the rain across the parking lot, soaked, barefoot, shaking. The office was empty. No woman, no clipboard, just a black and white TV playing static in the corner. As I stepped outside to leave, something caught my eye. The motel sign. It wasn't flickering anymore. It had changed. Now it read, Suncrest Lodge, Vacancy, 1. I drove all night, didn't stop, didn't think, but when I finally reached a diner and opened my glove box for my wallet, there was a key inside, plastic tag, faded ink, room 19. But the motel's name? It was scratched out, and in its place, carved into the plastic, was my name. The housekeepers aren't alive anymore. I'd been living out of a suitcase for almost 8 months. Work contracts, one city to the next, no real roots. The thing about cheap motels is, after a while, they all blend together. The smell of bleach, the hollow echo of your own footsteps, the identical bedspreads. With floral patterns no one ever actually chooses. You start to forget where you are. And sometimes, that's exactly what they want. My last contract had me in upstate Missouri. Small town, forgettable. I was supposed to stay 3 nights, but I only made it through 2. The motel was called Red Hollow Inn, off Route 17, hidden behind a shuttered diner and a field of dead sunflowers. I arrived late, after midnight. The front desk was empty, but the night window was open. A young man, maybe 20, pale, buzz-cut, leaned out, handed me a key, barely said a word. Room 12, no ID check, no credit card, just, don't mind the cleaning crew, they work odd hours. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe the guy was just tired. But when I turned from the window, I noticed them. 2 housekeepers, standing down the hallway, motionless. One short, thin, long stringy hair that clung to her face like cobwebs. The other, tall, heavy-set, bald. He didn't blink, not once. They stared as I walked past, not curious, not suspicious, just waiting. Room 12 was like every other room. Too cold, too quiet, too clean. That's what bothered me. Not the dust, not the age, but how perfect it all was. My bed was made too neatly. Crisp corners, pillows fluffed to hotel standard. Even my towel, folded into the shape of a swan. But here's the thing. I'd already been in the room for 5 minutes. I hadn't noticed that towel when I walked in. I slept with one eye open that night. Woke around 3:15 a.m., not from noise, but from stillness. A type of silence that isn't peaceful. It's expectant. I sat up, looked around, and saw it. My duffel bag, which I'd left zipped and untouched, was open. My toothbrush, resting on a folded towel. My socks, perfectly stacked. My phone charger, coiled like a noose beside the lamp. I knew I hadn't done any of that. I checked the door, still locked, chain still bolted. But the window, the lock was snapped, bent from the inside. The next morning I asked the guy at the desk who had cleaned my room. He didn't answer at first, just looked down, then said, "We don't have overnight staff." I pushed, told him about the changes. He glanced over my shoulder, his expression hollowed out. Then he whispered, almost too low to hear, "If they've picked you, you should leave before they finish." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair by the window, holding my car keys, bag packed. But I stayed, because I needed to know. Around 2:50 a.m., the doorknob moved, just slightly, then stopped. I crept to the peephole and saw them. The housekeepers, standing just outside. Same exact clothes, same blank expressions. The woman held something, a key. She slowly lifted it toward the lock, then stopped, turned to the tall man, whispered something, and they both looked up, directly into the peephole. I stepped back, heart thundering, waited, listened. They didn't try the door again, but when I finally dared to look, they were gone. Just gone. Except for the key. It was on the ground in front of the door, not the room key. It was an old skeleton key, darkened by age. Attached to it, a tag, Room 9, Do Not Disturb. But Room 9 had been boarded up. I'd seen it. Windows blacked out, doors sealed. Curiosity, or stupidity, got the better of me. I took the key, walked to Room 9, and as I turned the lock, I swear the hallway dimmed, like the motel was holding its breath. Inside was a time capsule, dust-covered linens, old suitcases, a cracked television still playing static, and in the middle of the room, 2 uniforms, laid out perfectly on the bed, one short, one tall, housekeeping name tag still pinned, but faded, too faded. Doris, 1972. Leon, 1972. Both dead. I turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind me. I was trapped, and in the corner, in the mirror. They were there, behind me. Not reflections, not ghosts, just watching. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember unlocking the door, but I woke up the next morning in room 12. As if nothing happened, my bag packed, shoes cleaned, phone fully charged, and on my nightstand, a towel, folded into the shape of a heart. Inside it, my spare car key. Except, I never left it there. I always keep it in my coat. I grabbed my things, ran, didn't even check out. When I got home, 3 states away, I unpacked, started laundry, and in the pocket of the jeans I hadn't worn in weeks was the tag, the old metal one, from room 9, and carved into the back beneath Do Not Disturb was something new. You forgot to tip. 3 rooms, 3 names, 3 nights. That should have faded into memory. But some places don't let you go. Not really. They keep something, a piece of you, and they give something back. Something that follows. You checked in for the night, but you didn't notice the form you signed, the way your reflection lingered just a second too long, or the fact that the housekeeper never blinked. You thought it was just a bed, just a room, just sleep. But now, the towel on your dresser is folded differently. Your mirror fogs up when you're not in the shower. And the knocking? You've heard it too, haven't you? It never comes from outside. These aren't just stories. They're warnings, reminders. Because even now, even as you turn off the lights and walk toward your own hallway, you might want to check the tag on your room key and ask yourself, did you leave? Or did the motel just change your room number?